you. I see that we have quorum, so I'm going to call to order this meeting of policies and priorities. First item is the adoption of the agenda. Are there any additions, revisions to be made to the agenda? No? Let me call the question. All in favor? Carried. It's been moved by Councillor Durley and seconded by Councillor Lane that Policy and Priorities Committee receive issue summary report, health and safety policy review summary, and that it be received for...
Disclosure of pecuniary.
I've missed an important element. Disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. Is anyone any conflict of interest with regard to this? No.
No, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Then returning to the item that has been moved by Councillor Durley and seconded by Councillor Lane, that Policy and Priorities Committee receive issue summary report, health and safety policy review summary, and that it be received for information. Comments, discussion. Councillor Lane?
I noticed some of these things are coming forward down the road. Okay. Are we on this? We're on this one, right?
We're on it,
Yeah. Okay.
yep.
Right. And I would just ask a question, and maybe someone can answer. That's under the health and safety policy number lockout. Okay, the name of lockout on this one. And I'm just wondering if someone could tell me to what extent is that? Because why I asked the question, or why I bring it up, is because in my previous history, we used to call that lockout procedure. It was a lockout procedure. I know it's only coming in January, but I'm just saying this for when people might prepare it, that it should be more than just a lockout procedure. That it should be, in fact, a lockout procedure along with a tagout procedure and along with trying the equipment, if in fact that's what plays. So I just throw that out there for some consideration when this policy, in fact, is being written or updated or whatever. Okay, that's all.
Councillor Lane, I think Madam Treasurer, the CAO will answer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Answer the councillor's question, yes. I think it was just a bit of an abbreviation in the title, but the workplace health and safety legislation clearly is lockout, tagout. So,
Okay, great, thank you.
I saw Councillor King, and now see the mayor after.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for clarification, I understand that this is a recommendation to receive this summary, but I also notice on the schedule that there are two policies that are being presented this evening according to the date schedule, and there is nothing attached. So can I just have some clarification on that?
Thank you. I think they're further on the agenda.
Oh, are they? Okay, then I missed
It's out
it.
of order and call to order.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Thank you. Maybe staff can speak to this. I was actually surprised that this was coming because I thought council said we wanted to talk about public works policies. I understand in the report here that there's a number of policies and there's changes and those kind of things, and I think later on we see one of those changes in July of this year. What about the public works policies?
Mr. CEO?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To answer the mayor's question, yes, the focus still is on public works policies. We will be having public works policies continue to come to this committee for consideration. However, we did, as you recall, go through the human resource policies as council's first round. The thing that we didn't get completed in time was the workplace health and safety policies. Part of the reason, there's several answers to that. Part of the reason was that the policies that we had begun to work on, we'd asked WSIB to review WSIB came in and turned them upside down, and we had to go back to the drawing board. So those policies went back to the Burke Group, who then had a workplace health and safety specialist look at them and make amendments. Then the policies have come back to us and are now being vetted through the Workplace Health and Safety Committee, and then will be made recommendation to council. So long story short, what we're doing is we're finishing the HR policies, and then at the same time, concurrently, we'll be continuing with the Public Works policies as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
And,
you. Mr.
Mr. Chair, I don't want to in any way, shape, or form imply that Public Works isn't busy or isn't doing work or whatever, and I know there's a lot of work that's going on out there. I was just, maybe in terms of the schedule, when the schedule comes to us again, it would be helpful to see when those policies are coming forward so that we can plan for them. And if we can do 2 or 3 or whatever it is, or 4 of those as well to keep the policy work going, I think it would be helpful. So thank you. I apologize if I offended anyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Anyone else with respect to comments? Shall we call the question? All in favor? And that carries. Next item has been moved by Councillor Lane and seconded by Councillor King, that issue summary report proposed sanitary sewer backflow prevention incentive program be received, and that committee recommend to council that the proposed financial incentive for the installation of sanitary sewer backflow devices be referred to the 2015 budget. Comments, questions, discussion? Councillor Durley?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've had several comments from people who live in an area other than the Northwest Quadrant, which was really badly hit with that storm water event. I just want to make sure, and there is some reference in here to that location in the town. I want to make it clear that if in fact this incentive program does go forward, that everybody in town will be able to access it. And there was some communication from one individual who actually sourced out a plumber who does this work, and he has recommended that, you know, perhaps that firm should be considered. And I explained to him that, you know, we can't sort a single source anything out. So, and also I'm suggesting that any contractor who is licensed to do this would be able to do the application, and that the conditions of incentive, if in fact they are established, are universal all the way around to whichever manufacturer and whichever contractor is hired to do the job. So just want to make that clear. That isn't stated in here, but I would like to add that as a caveat, if you will, that it's town-wide, and it's anybody who has the problem or has the initiative to install one of these things is eligible to get it if it goes forward.
Thank you, Councillor Durley. Mr. Seale? Mr. Manel, insofar as the financial implication indicated a limit, is this indeed meant to be applicable to the whole town, as Councillor Durley has suggested?
Chairman, it was not meant to be town-wide. The neighborhood that was affected by the backups was the northeast quadrant of the village. It's a certain specified area that I believe they've had similar occurrences in the past, which were unrelated to storm activity. They were more related to power failures. So that was, and it's been very isolated. The situation Councillor Durley refers to was simply a backup of the main sewer. It was caused by debris in a recently flushed sewer. I responded to that site with one of our staff, and we fairly quickly resolved the issue with the blockage. So again, it was just simply one of those oddball things, and the intent was not meant to be town-wide. But again, we simply identified the location where the worst problem has occurred in the past, and there seemed to be the most interest in that sort of a program. I've never really heard of anything in any other part of town. Sewer backups in other locations are very rare in the town. And those that cause damage are extremely rare, with the exception of that northeast quadrant of town. We have the records to back that up. So that's more or less why the the logic behind the process was simply not to include anything beyond that northeast water, but we certainly can. It will probably result in applications from people that really don't need it. It may be just a waste of their money to do such a thing, because it's very remote that they're going to have any kind of damage experienced by a backup, which is, the backups occur because of grease in the sewer lines. It could be almost anything that caused the backup. It could be on your own property, the backup, roots in your line, that sort of thing. So again, it was just simply at this time meant to be that northeast quadrant. If council wants to expand it, we can certainly incorporate that into any future plan.
Thank you, Mr. Manley.
Welcome.
Councilor
Mr.
Durley?
Chair, through you, the one particular person that is corresponding with me had severe damage, and it was because of apparently something that happened on town property, not on his own property. And in fact, he had a $3,000 deductible insurance, and it did cost him extensively to repair the damages that are there. And not only that, his insurance company has said, if you have one more, you're not covered. This is the situation that I'm looking for. If in fact the incident was not of his doing or his fault, and it happened to him, he's in the hole for some money now, and he's also going to be without insurance for it in the future. So if it does happen again, it could cost him substantially more. I understand the logic of that which has most occurrences. However, it's not going to be isolated to just that area. There are going to be others. As a matter of fact, I know of 3 as of today from talking to different folks. So, and they're all within the vicinity of the subject that I've shared with you. So, I think we should somehow build in something that protects people that are vulnerable or who have had a problem in the past. And this is something I'm just asking if we can consider.
Mr. Manley?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, we can certainly include that in any program that we devise. If council wants to go that direction, we can certainly do that. I don't see any issue with it. I know that of the blockages that you're speaking of, and I also had a discussion with the town's insurance adjuster this afternoon, and there's a certain pattern that he follows when he denies some of these claims. And it's based on the town's liability with respect to maintenance. Are we maintaining the system on a regular basis? And yes, we are. So that's why some of those claims are denied when they submit them based to our insurer. So he evaluates each one of those, and he'll deny it based on, or approve it based on how we maintain it. He asks for our maintenance records each time we have one of these occurrences, and that's the background that he uses.
Okay. Yeah, I understand all that through you, Mr. Chair. The thing is that the subject property is now stigmatized in the fact that you've had one. If you have another one, you're done. So again, this is the whole issue that I'm there, that a taxpayer is suffering because of something that happened inadvertently, even though we have done the best of our ability as far as routine maintenance is concerned. Like yesterday, there wasn't a pothole here. Today there is, and I broke my axle of my car. Anyway, my record showed it was okay. This is all I'm saying, that these people are vulnerable to a problem if it happens again, and it's going to be a costly problem. And that's just a concern that I would like to bring forward.
Councilor Durley, if I may suggest, are you looking at staff perhaps coming back with eligibility criteria that are more than just geographical, that there be other circumstances in which an incentive might be applied?
I know it's going to be difficult, Mr. Chair, for a criteria to be set up, because it could happen isolated, and I know there were other backups in around Millbridge because of some grease in a sewer in times past. Now, these are things that people are vulnerable, and it's no fault of their own. So, some consideration needs to be given that, and I really don't know how it could happen. I would say that if it's happened to you once, that you could qualify for a backflow preventer, so it doesn't happen to you again. Some people will go through life, it'll never happen. Others will, and what I want to build in somehow is to protect the ones that are going to be subject to this damage.
Thank you. I saw Councillor King, and then I will get back.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a couple of questions. One has to do with what has actually been conducted, because I think that we understood at a previous meeting that there were already inspections conducted, and as a result of that, we knew that there were illegal connections, and that the smoke testing, or whatever it's referred to here, was about to be completed. What I see in the report is that both of those are still ongoing. And I am still having calls as late as this morning with respect to this, because people are concerned. People are getting ready to go away for the winter. They want to install backflow valves. I've had a quote of $250 to $1,300, and in the report we have approximately $1,500. So there's a lot of, in my mind, there's a lot of unanswered questions, and certainly there has not been the communication that we requested some time ago. In fact, at the meeting when the petition was presented, I specifically requested that because we had the contact information, either telephone numbers or emails for these residents, so they were kept abreast of what was going on. To the best of my knowledge, that communication has not occurred. So where do we stand now in terms of responding to residents when they have questions?
Mr. Mano?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, if you're referring to the progress on the smoke testing and video inspection program, or what are you referring to?
I'm just
Councillor King.
referring to, sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, I'm referring to communication in the complete process of what is being done there, what residents can expect. They're asking questions about installing backflow valves. Obviously, if they're going to be installing a backflow valve and doing it themselves at a cost of $250, they may not be meeting the criteria that's being outlined here. So they're concerned, and I'm getting concerned.
Thank you. Mr. Mano?
Well, we haven't got that far yet. We're still doing the field work with respect to the investigation. So once we have some answers there, then we can respond.
I think part of the question has to do with the kind of communication that is ongoing with affected
That's
people,
correct.
even during this part of the process.
Right.
Well, other than the notifications that they've received at their door with respect to the inspections that are being done, because there's a notification when the smoke testing is underway. That's, I think, all that we've done so far.
Councillor Ting?
Rest. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mano. Councillor Papp?
I'll wait for Councillor
Councillor
Kersey.
Kersey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First comment to my colleague. I believe there's been some emails circulated that there's a tentative meeting set up early in October with the residents, or planned by the residents, or hoping that we'll have something to report to them at that point in time. Whether we will or we won't, I don't know. They're trying to organize a meeting, is what I've seen. And presumably by then we'll have at least some information, but it'd be untoward for us to comment when we don't have all the data. And I think taking even though it's frustrating for the residents, I think we're moving in the right direction by collecting the data, and we can tell them the true story. And I think the fact that we're trying to move ahead with a backflow preventer program is a step in the right direction. It shows that we are giving consideration to their concerns. So I think in that respect, we are responding to the concerns that they've been brought forward. At least in my mind, and may not be in yours, but my question is, and incidentally, they'll never get a backflow preventer installed for $250. It's not even, you couldn't even buy the parts for that. I've had some experience with that, so I know what I'm talking about. My concern with Councillor Durley's suggestion and is that it may open a can of worms, in that people who don't need it will be applying for it and using up valuable resources that would prevent a person, once that's we've burned through whatever we've budgeted, the next guy might not be able to get that money because we burned through it. I like the idea that if it has happened once and the resident is in jeopardy of losing his subsequent insurance coverage, that may be a critical criteria. So if you've had a backup, you've had a warning letter from your insurance because you've made a claim that any subsequent claims would nullify your insurance, then I think we as a caring community could step in and say, we'll assist you in installing a backflow preventer such that your insurance is not in jeopardy. So I think that's a reasonable criteria that could be applied. Otherwise, I don't even know how we would come to some resolution of what to budget. We would budget a number, and if everybody gets excited about the fact that, you know, this program's out there, and we get a zillion applications, we burn through the money, and residents that are in desperate need of it might not have money there available to them. So I understand where Councillor Durley's going. I support the idea of universality to some degree, but I think we should be careful in how we allocate that, and I think the idea of if they get in jeopardy of losing their insurance, then we can step in and assist them, and those are going to be one-ofs. It's not going to be community-wide. So I would support a program like that, and maybe we refer it back to staff, that we approve it in principle, at whatever level we want. If it's $1,000, then they come back with some recommendations with some criteria that could be applied to making it more open and encompassing, rather than us try and debate it here and come up with it.
Thank you, Councillor Kersey. Did you want to respond?
Yes, I'd like to make an amendment to this, that not only does the device incentive program be forwarded to referred to the 2015 budget, but along with that be appended conditions where people not living in that area would qualify, i.e. if they have experienced one or if they are in jeopardy of one, or I'd leave it to staff to come up with some wording on that and append that to the request in the budget, and that works for me. But again, I feel we, as a caring community, we need to protect that person who may be in jeopardy of losing his insurance, and that's just where this is coming from.
Yep.
Thank you. So you're making an amendment at this point. You make a motion to indeed consider eligibility criteria within and without.
Appended to the request for the 2015 budget. So the report would come in, they're going to recommend this, and these are the criteria by which you qualify. And I'll leave it to staff to know. I think they've got enough direction and enough leeway to come up with something that's logical.
Okay, I think we know the amendment discussion with respect to that. Councillor Kersey, then Councillor Papp.
Not with respect to the amendment. I was wondering about some clarification on the original recommendation, and it's sort of in line with what Councillor King was talking about.
Can we deal with the amendment?
Yeah, for sure.
Councillor Papp?
Okay, we're going in circles. I agree, we need eligibility criteria. We've got an immediate concern with a current group of constituents that have been affected. We need to be careful to we have no money set aside for this right now. So whether it's in, and I'll ask the clerk, I would personally rather see it referred back and all that comprehensive stuff come back to us. Talking about how we're going to, it's almost like a how might we exercise, put in a backflow program, and how do we ensure that all of the people in our constituencies are actually going to be eligible for it, notwithstanding there's already current ones that have been affected. And that's where I'm going with this, because I can see because right off the bat, anybody looking at this say, we're not spending any money right now. We're not going to be doing anything. And I'm thinking, and I think we need to be clear, as Councilor Durley is, who it is and what we're doing.
So you're moving to refer this?
I would prefer that we move it back, refer it back, and then all those questions be answered.
I have no objection to that, since it won't be till the 2015 budget anyway, but, staff
That's
could
what I
move
was getting
forward,
at,
and when the deliberations
Right,
come up
that's
for
right,
that,
John.
this would be certainly the time to bring it up.
That's the time to.
Full agreement.
Okay.
I'll withdraw my amendment. in favor of that referral.
Understood. Councillor Kersey, did you want to address something?
Well,
further?
no, and
Because-
I'm in agreement with that as well, and the only thing I would say is that we need to be cognizant of the fact that there is a neighborhood that
That's what I'm
is
getting,
under
Gary.
pressure to
Right.
want to install these valves immediately, so some retroactivity needs to be incorporated within that.
Yeah, but-
And specified within the program, whatever date we want to incorporate, such that we would encourage them to go ahead and get the work done now. Don't wait for the money. Get whatever you think you need to protect your property, do it. And we are considering this program, provided that it's funded in the 2015 budget, and it'll be retroactive, period.
If they
If in
qualify.
fact we fund it.
That's the.
Any other comments with respect to the motion to refer? Sorry,
Well,
Mr. Mayor?
I think it's wise to do that. Councilor Papp, I, have right here, how might we, this is a classic, how might we session? What are the facts? And it was a classic, what is the problem? Is it across the town, as Councilor Durley said, or is it in the specific area? What is the problem we're trying to solve here? Is the problem that we're trying to pay for all backflow preventers in the town? Are we trying to pay to assist residents with the backflow prevention? So it's a standard amount or up to a maximum or whatever. And I think through this, we can look at other incentive programs that we had. I think about the flush toilet program or the rain barrel program or even the CIP program, which has a cost sharing, a 50-50 split and those kind of things. One of the things that we did include, I thought, in this was the fees for building, because you have to get a building permit to do this. So should that be part of the incentive or not part of the incentive? Yeah, there's a lot of work that needs to be done on this. And yet at the same time, we keep hearing from residents, and you're right, Councillor, they want to meet. And they want to know what we're doing. Well, we're still investigating and we're still setting up programs. To make it retroactive, I think, is a good idea if it's done properly. But I've heard from residents that say they might be putting it in and they might not getting a building permit because they want to get it in, but they don't want to pay the building permit fee, right? So, and then are they going to be eligible or ineligible or whatever? So I think that needs to be clear as well. So I would presume that the program would be something like, if you got the building permit and da-da-da-da-da, then you would be eligible for this. And it would be retroactive regardless, just like we weren't going to give somebody, whatever it was, $25 or more. No, how much was it $25? We're not going to give you the $25, thank you, for the flush toilet program unless you actually bought the toilet. So, okay, retroactive, you got to put the thing in, you got to follow the program, and then you can get the money, right? That makes sense.
Can I get my 1,500 back?
Anyways, yeah, for the water
I
bill.
think-
And there needs to be a time period and all that. So what's clear, as I think, as we've talked about this, and I continue to talk about it, and I'll stop now, is that more work needs to occur. There has to be consultation with others on this program. It does affect Treasury, it does affect building, it affects a whole bunch of things. So I am in favor of the referral. Let's get this thing organized. And I guess the only other final thing is, when can we expect this to come back to us?
If referred, when can it come back?
Especially for
Metal?
October, I guess, the next meeting.
Next meeting?
We could work at it, yes.
Next policy and priority or next committee? The next one, I think, is canceled.
I'd say,
In October,
I'd
so-
recommend next committee meeting.
Next committee meeting?
2 weeks.
Next committee meeting?
3 weeks.
3 weeks.
An extra week, yes.
Thank you. So have we heard everything on the motion to refer? Call the question. All in favor? So that item is referred back.
Ask for a special meeting, but anyway, go through this process.
Moving on, moved by Councillor Durley and seconded by Councillor Lane that the issue summary report, Bill 168, Workplace Violence Harassment Policy, be received and recommend as follows: that Policy and Priorities Committee recommend that Council approve the Bill 168 Workplace Violence Harassment Policy, and that Policy HNS 50 be repealed and replaced. Discussion. Councillor Pat?
30 seconds, great. Solidify it, now we're in alignment. And it is, it's the old adage that I've used before, immunizing us and making sure that we have things that are very clear and very understandable by employees at all levels. This is great.
Thank you, Councillor Pat. Others? Are you ready to call the question? All in favor? That passes. That's carried. Moved by Councillor Durley and seconded by Councillor King that Policy and Priorities Committee received the issue summary report, General Safety Rules, Health and Safety Awareness, and the committee recommend that Council approve policy S101-05. Comments, questions? Seeing none, let me call the question. All in favor? And that carries. Moved by Councillor King and seconded by Councillor Durley that this regular meeting of Policy and Priorities Committee be... I'm missing something?
6.3.
There's a paper hunt going on.
Sorry.
Sewer infiltration.
Yes, the motion is that the committee receive the sanitary sewer infiltration inspection program update for information. We need a mover. Councillor Kersey, I saw your hand move.
Sure, I'll do it.
And seconded by Councillor Pat. Comments and questions, discussion. Councillor Kersey?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Mr. Mantle. Mr. Mantle, have we given any consideration to having a look at the manhole covers, that how much they might have contributed to inflow of water into the system? A lot of them were flooded and underwater for relatively long periods of time, or is the amount of infiltration that we see around these manholes relatively minor in comparison to the other contributors?
That's one.
Mr. Mann?
Mr. Chairman, we haven't looked specifically at the manhole covers. They're going to be a contributing factor to that infiltration. What I suspect we'll find when we put all the data together is that it's not one single location that's causing the problem. It's going to be a number of locations. It'll be the eave trough downspouts we found connected. There'll be several of those, which can be a huge contributor to this issue. There'll also be the weeping tile connections. We've already found some of them, and we know that the pumping station was also flooded, so that could be a contributor also. It flooded the wet well, and as well as the manhole covers, because we know the intersections were flooded. So it could be just a little bit of everything. We've never experienced that sort of situation in the past where there's been that sort of widespread flooding of roads and that. So my guess is it'll be a little bit of everything, the manholes included.
Just as a follow-up, Mr. Chair.
Follow-up, yes.
Had we identified those manholes that had become submerged, like where the flooding actually occurred? Was it predominantly in that area? And if so, I'm just wondering whether there are some remediation methods that could be instituted in those areas that are low and chronically flooded and contributing to inflow into the sanitary system.
We know the locations, but they were widespread throughout that sewer shed area, which takes you all the way south as far as Port Robinson Road, west to Pelham Street, and then again that's that whole northeast quadrant. We know that the intersection of Port Robinson Road and Station Street, for example, was flooded. And there'd be a manhole there. There'd be a manhole at every intersection. So they were all flooded. Also on several on Hurricane Road. Again, to try and pick one in particular, just it was dark out, and wherever there was a low spot at a manhole, that would be a likely location for water to get in.
Thank you. Anything further, Councillor?
No, thank you.
Others? Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just in terms, so here we are, we don't have the results, and yet they're imminent. And we also, another fact is that residents want to meet, and they've been wanting to meet for months. So when will we know the results of these inspections? And when will staff be recommending, like, let me ask it this way, and once we know the results, will the solutions for them require recommendations from staff to council? Or is it something that staff would just do? Can we hear a little bit more about that?
Mr. Mennel, please.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, as I mentioned, I don't think there's going to be the smoking gun out there that we're looking for. It'll be simply a matter of a number of locations that are an issue. The town has bylaws in place with respect to these, what we refer to as illegal connections, whether it be a weeping tile or a sump pump or a eave trough downspout. So, those can be dealt with without council intervention. It's simply a matter of staff instructing the residents. Probably it would be best that the council endorse these actions, because my guess is they'll be expensive to repair or to modify to remove these connections, especially the weeping tile ones. So there'd be a lot of expense to the owners, so likely we'll hear from them that they cannot afford it or what have you. There's a side benefit also. We were able to identify a number of sanitary laterals that on private property that were a problem. They have roots or they're loaded with grease, so that's something we'll be notifying the residents of also, that it's something they better do some maintenance on their own system. So there's a number of those sort of things that that will be coming on. But again, the bylaws are in place already to deal with that.
And in relation to timing?
Well, as soon as we can accumulate the data, like it usually, I think in the report there we said that once the inspections are done, it usually takes 2 or 3 weeks to get the data all compiled, and they present the report to us. With the smoke testing component of it, those are video inspection, or the visual inspections of the smoke coming out. They should be taking a photograph of that and identifying that house as evidence to present. Here you've got this problem. Your eave troughs are connected to the sanitary sewer system. So again, as soon as we have the results, you'll have the results.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
I'm just thinking about Councillor Kersey's comment, and we received the email, they want to meet on October 1st. Is this something that would, and maybe the CEO can chime in on this, but is this something that, a report that would come to council, we'd have a presentation, whatever, what are we contemplating here in terms of getting the results from this? This is a very important issue, and it affects a number of property owners.
Mr. CEO?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It would make good sense to have a presentation to council with regards to the report. But at the same time, I think that remediation efforts should
Commence
immediately.
Yeah.
If there's things that we can do to remediate problems that don't need council approval, we don't need to wait for a council meeting. But I do think it's important to have council fully briefed on what the results of the studies have been, because there will obviously be implications financially and otherwise, perhaps even legal situations that you're going to have to make decisions on.
Mr. Mayor?
Okay. Well, the residents want to meet, they want to hear this. Are we going to be able to present results on October 1st or October 8th or October 20th or what's, and we're hearing that, as Councillor Kersey just said, they do want to set up a separate meeting and have it at the Legion and invite people and talk about it because they're anxious to do so. Mm-hmm. And we've been putting them off because we keep saying, we're doing the study, we don't have the information, which is fair, and they're being very understanding, but I'm sure that they're getting quite anxious as well. So as we all are.
May I ask the question a different way?
Yes.
Yes. Is there a date that staff can offer as the best date for this kind of meeting to take place so that the information will be available and people will have some satisfaction out of it?
No, we can't. Until we get the results, they're moving as quickly as they can with the video inspections. They compile the data. Once we have it, a report will be prepared for council. but to give you a date, we can call them and say, can you hurry up? But that's more or less all we can do at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Meno. Mr. CEO?
What I might suggest to council to consider is that rather than waiting for a council meeting to receive the report and then meet with the residents, we could advise council when the information has been received and then set up a meeting immediately with the residents to present that. And then have the information come back to council to adopt it or to make decisions. If that would help expedite things, then we can certainly do it that way as well.
I think whatever will help.
I think it might. I think it might. So if council colleagues are okay with that. Results out.
Councillor Kersey?
I think it would be helpful if we went into a meeting like that, having at least approved in principle the backflow preventer program. And then at least we're carrying something positive, and
Yep.
and at that point, we can encourage them to, don't wait, go ahead and get it done. You're protecting your property. We're gonna help you if funds are available in 2015, but go ahead and get your property protected. Don't wait for us.
Councillor Kersey, the suggestion has been whispered in my ear that perhaps we should contemplate a special meeting as soon as this information is available to
Perfect idea.
cover all of these
Perfect
issues
idea.
and make decisions.
Colleagues?
Colleagues, all,
Yeah.
okay. So we are asked to accept the information as it is for information. Are there any other comments, questions? Then all in favor? That's carried. Thank you for whispering.
Council whisperer.
Finally, moved by Councillor King and seconded by Councillor Durley that this regular meeting of Policy and Priorities Committee be adjourned until the next regular committee scheduled for Monday, October 6, 2014, unless sooner called by the mayor. All in favor? Carried.
9:30 is early.
People are voting with their feet. Thank you for your help.
Bob?
And I think we're going to just sit them down a little bit. Mr. Council, I don't do this anymore.
Oh, Nancy.